Hi, how are you doing? It's Thea, your evolutionary astrologer and divine feminine educator. And I want to do the Venus vibes for this month, but also include Three Eye Atlas. Three Eye Atlas had its perihelion November 3rd, yesterday. So it was closest to Venus. And so that's very powerful, especially since I'm all into Venus, right? And Venus, she's a complex little entity, so really still studying her quite a bit. But remember, last video I talked that we were in the underworld. This is a great time to do your shadow work. I even got sick. I had a psoas issue. I had a sinus issue. Last video, I was coughing. And I'm still recovering from all of that. So I've been going into the underworld. I don't know how it's been for you, but really nurturing myself, taking care of myself. And in this video, I want to give you a little bit about what the journey is for Venus for the month of November. So she starts Venus at 23 degrees of Libra and goes all the way through, finishes through Libra. And then at the very last day of November, she's at 0 degrees Sag. So she goes through the end of Libra, through Scorpio, and then very ends the month at 0 degrees Sag. So she starts out with Libra, the relationship goddess energy, and then goes through Scorpio, the intensity and emotional processing, and then ends with all new awareness and insights at 0 degrees Sag, because Sag is all about broadening your horizon. So this is a great opportunity for you to continue to dig deep, go underneath, do your shadow work. And I want to talk about some of the things that I want you to pay attention to in your your relationship habits and shadow habits. I'll talk about that in a moment. But I wanted to give you some dates here. So in the beginning, she starts at 23 degrees of Libra, and she's communicating with Pluto and Uranus and Cancer, or Jupiter and Cancer. So this is very emotional, but also very intellectual. Actually, with that Uranus in Gemini, it's in conjunct. So she doesn't see, you don't, Venus is not seeing Gemini, and Gemini is where you get the information, right? So this is could be emotional times in the first part of the month, and it's going to intensify on November the 6th when Venus goes into Scorpio. So pay attention to that date. Actually, I'm sorry, it's the November the 7th. Because it'll go into Scorpio on November the 6th, but on November the 7th, it's going to be it's going to be at 1 degree Scorpio, and Pluto in Aquarius is at 1 degree. So it'll be an exact square. So when Pluto and Venus are in communication, this is not a trine, this is a square. So it's a challenging energy, but it's also an energy for opportunity for transformation and growth in your relationships, right? So the beginning of the month, all the way I'd say until the 11th, so most of the first half of the month, you have this beautiful opportunity to really dig deep, do the shadow work, right? And I'll go to that. I'm going to come back to that, and I'm going to go over some things like that you might be doing in relationship that are sabotage your relationships, create dysfunction in your relationships, and we're going to come back to that. But after she does that communication with Pluto, also with Jupiter and Cancer, then she's starting to communicate with the North Node in Pisces, okay? And she does that from like November the 16th until the 18th. I mean, there's little orbs before and after, but that's where it's going to be the most intense. And this is Scorpio Pisces energy. And these are, again, two water signs, right? So Venus is in Scorpio, North Node's in Pisces. North Node is the direction that our collective soul wants to go. Scorpio wants to dig deep, wants to, do shadow work, wants to face its limitations and move beyond it. And Pisces just thinks is naive. Pisces just thinks that we're all connected, which we are, but we live in a dog eat dog world. So this is you could have possibly face things around, codependency, victim energy, not seeing things clearly, but also needing to dig deep to figure it out. So these are water signs. It's an emotional processing. So, with Venus being connected to Pluto, but that's an Aquarius, that's an air. It's wanting to elevate and do the psychological shadow work to elevate. And then with it connected to Pisces, the North Node in Pisces, that's like, emotional and looking at all of those shadow habits and how can you really step into a greater, deeper understanding of like discernment, like where are your codependent and addictive and victim energies that you can actually heal and transform. So that's the opportunity from November the 16th through the 18th. And then we're starting to go into the end of the month. And so after that connection with the North Node in Pisces, the direction of understanding that we're all connected, but also where are my boundaries, right? And where can I have better boundaries? So that's another word with Pisces is doing the psychological processing to understand where can you implement better boundaries. And then towards the end of the month, then Mercury comes along and starts communicating with Venus. And that's all in Scorpio. So that's, again, deep diving, psychological processing. So I would say this month is a really beautiful opportunity to continue to look at your shadow habits in relationship. It's going to be connected to Mercury in a conjunction in Scorpio, and then it's going to oppose Uranus in Taurus. And so that, Mercury and Uranus are both very intellectual. Uranus wants to elevate, but it's in Taurus, so it wants to ground. And so, how can you bring this deeper awareness, this deeper knowing of how you play the part in bringing in havoc in your relationship? So let's look at some of the habits that you can be looking at this month to see. And I wrote an article and it's, I'll put a link to it. It's in my blog and it's, I don't know what I titled it, but it gives this chart that I'm looking at, and it'll really help support you with this month in looking at your shadow habits. Okay. So let me just give you the list of them, the most common, right, that we do in relationship and see if you can relate to any of these. Projection. It's like criticizing or blaming your partner for traits that you actually have. So anytime we're pointing a finger at another, there's how many pointing back at us, right? So owning your own stuff. And yes, maybe they aren't being perfect. Maybe they are driving you crazy. But, it is a dance. And if we can take ownership of our own part and stop projecting our own stuff onto another, then we can create healthier relationships. And that's a big thing in our society. Nobody wants to take ownership for their part. So projection is look at where you're actually projecting. And if you see that in another person, say, where do I have that too? Okay. The other one is people pleasing and avoiding conflict. Now, this is really, this is very Piscean. Okay. So this may come up in November 16th through the 18th. People pleasing is just, going along to get along and not creating any conflict. It's also very Libra. But that's going to backfire on you, saying yes when you really mean no. So, really getting aware of what your yes is and what your no is, and being authentic and transparent instead of always putting on a nice face, right? Or the other end of it is controlling and micromanaging. So that is, I think this whole control thing is just you maybe grew up in an environment where you felt very unsafe. And so the only way that you could feel safe was by controlling everything. And it's not fun to be around people that, it's nice when you have people that have a lot of Virgo energy, maybe, that can, you can just leave them in charge. That's beautiful. But when they start telling you how to do things better or micromanaging you, you just feel so limited and so controlled by another. On the other end, if you're controlling it, there's a high level of anxiety that you could be experiencing. So, the ultimate is learning how to surrender because we live this life. And at the end, we need to take our last breath and let go. And so if you are a controller, a micromanager, you're probably very successful in your career. Corporations love micromanagers, right? Because you get a lot done and you make people get a lot done, but it's not a real good connector, right? It creates a lot of anxiety in the relationship arena. And so learn to let go, learn to trust in the process. Defensiveness is another one. Um, Not being willing to hear negative things. And the minute you hear anything wrong with you, you put up a wall. That is, it's very difficult to have an intimate relationship with someone that's defensive. So look at your defensiveness and see where you can be more open. Sabotage, self-sabotage, undermining closeness or intimacy. That's pretty complex, and lots of times we do that very unconsciously. Resentment and holding grudges. That's another big one is like you may have a resentment, but you're not talking to the person about it and you're just holding it in and letting it brew and stew and build inside of you. And so you want to learn how to be able to communicate in a way that opens and clears the air, but not by putting the other person on the defensive, right? So this, the art of communicating and communicating up from your head, but your heart is what we all need to learn. Over attraction to triggering partners, being attracted to the bad guy. I think, many of us have been there and done that, right? I hope you're not still stuck in that cycle. Silent withdrawal or stonewalling, shutting down or ignoring problems, giving the cold shoulder or the silent treatment. These are all really powerful, hurtful behaviors that really deteriorate relationships. So I'm just going to run through them again. Pay attention this month. Where are you projecting all of your stuff onto someone that you care about? Are you over people pleasing and avoiding conflict when you really need to be able to talk about it? Are you an over controller and a micromanager? Do you get defensive when someone tries to reach out to you and talk to you about something? Are you sabotaging your relationships? And what is that you're doing? How are you sabotaging them? Resentment, holding on to grudges, again, not talking about things, over attractions to triggering partners, silent withdrawal, stonewalling, or giving the silent treatment. Pay attention to those. Check out the article that I have below. The other thing is with working with your triggers, what you can do for tips for working with your triggers, and that's in the article as well, is number one, don't beat yourself up. This is a month to really look at and pay attention and notice. I have this article on how to process your emotions, and it's called the 4N process. It's notice, name, nurture, and need. That's another subject, but the very first one is to notice. So it's about becoming conscious and becoming aware of your behaviors, right? And so notice what triggers you. And we can feel it. If someone's triggering you, you can feel that. And instead of starting to spin up in your head and starting to make them the bad person and project or be nice when you really don't want to be nice or whatever your common shadow habit behavior is, instead just notice it within you, okay? Then you can journal about it so that you can release that energy or have more clarity. Put it to paper if that's what you like to do, or communicate with yourself about it. Then the third one is radical self-acceptance. So don't make yourself wrong because this other person is bothering you. Let it be information. Let it be an opportunity to become more aware of why. Why is that person triggering me? What's underneath it? As a matter of fact, I'm going to put two articles in this video. The first one is going to be about these shadow habits, and then the second one is going to be about the 4N process. Because when you have uncomfortable emotions, when you have these triggers, all it means is there's an unmet need underneath. And that article will help you to get to it and understand what your core needs are. And then you can communicate more consciously with those and have more of an open conversation of what you actually need. So with that said, this month is a great month to let your shadow help you grow in relationship, and mainly the relationship that you have with you. The beginning of the month is about looking at your limitations, dealing with, opportunity to transform because you're going to be in communication. Venus is going to be in communication with Scorpio. And then, there may be some intense days on November the 6th and the 7th. So pay attention to that. And then it's going to communicate with the North Node Pisces, where you can look at where do I have to implement better boundaries, right? And then the end of the month, it's going to be communicating with Mercury and Uranus so that there's more of a deeper psychological awareness that could potentiality that can happen. And then at the very last end of the month, it's going to go into the 0 degree Sag and be like, aha, I get it. I've learned so much in this past month with all this shadow processing. So I'm giving you all the tools that both of those articles are super powerful. Please take the time to read them. Have a great month. As always, give me a thumbs up, comment, share. I appreciate your support. And I think that's all I have to say. Three Eye Atlas is going to be going and being close to the Earth on December 16th. So this is a great time to really look at those patterns, because what Three Eye Atlas, I believe, is helping us do is elevate our consciousness and open our hearts. So that's just my take on it all. And I'm giving you the tools so you can do it. I hope you find this helpful. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time. Take care.